Alright, what's up? I'm back again working on the '07 Silverado, and so today I'm going to be working on the frame. I'm going to start trying to get it all stripped down, clean up so I can work on getting it painted and all that. And I'm going to try this Amazon pressure washer sandblaster attachment. I know you've probably seen it quite a few different places. I've seen it pop up a few times on Amazon, and I've seen a few people talk about it, and I've seen a few videos on it, but I really just wondered if it was actually any count, because it's like $30, so it's like dirt cheap. I just really wondered if it was like actually any good, so I figured if I'm going to be painting my frame and stripping it, might as well try it. I mean, what, 30 bucks? I mean, what's it going to hurt? So we'll try it and see if it's actually any count. Alright, so before I get going too crazy, there is a few different things I got to pull off the frame. I got like the ABS wires, and I'm going to pull off the brake lines. Just certain things that are kind of either sitting on the frame that I need out of the way so I can get it cleaned up, or things I don't want damaged. I got to plug up a few things, nothing too crazy, but I want to get all that done before I start going. So I'm going to get that all knocked out real fast. Alright, so I got the whole wires and the lines, everything took off of the frame. I mean, really, like a lot of this, like this side's not too bad. It's just mostly just kind of surface rust. But now, over in here, I mean, it is just absolutely caked on. I mean, as you can see, it's pretty bad. It's got a lot of gunk built up on it. So hopefully this will take everything off, and I guess we'll find out how good it really is. Alright, so before I use the Amazon sandblaster pressure washer thing, I want to actually take and just pressure wash the frame itself. I just want to kind of see, is there a difference? Like, is this actually going to work, or would just normal pressure washing get everything off also? So I'm going to hit it with some Dawn dish detergent to help break up all the grease and grime, and then I'm just going to pressure wash it like you would just normally pressure wash something. And we'll see what that does, and then we'll try the Amazon pressure washer sandblasting end and see if it is actually better or not. So we'll hook up the pressure washer and we'll do that first. As you can tell, the pressure washer, I mean, it did something. It wasn't the greatest, but like spots like this where there was, you know, it was just kind of caked on, yeah, it took it off. It got a lot of it out from, I don't know if you can see down there, got a lot out. I mean, it didn't do bad, but it didn't do great. I mean, it got big stuff, and that's really about all it did. Any of the stuff that was just really dried or just kind of, at this point, kind of made into the frame, it wasn't touching. Really it only take off the stuff that was kind of fresh. So hopefully that the sandblaster attachment will strip everything off, hopefully. So I guess we'll try that now and find out. So one thing I did want to mention was the sand that I'm going to be using. It is from Harbor Freight. It's a 80 grit glass bead sand, so it should be fine. I mean, it's not super coarse, but it's got a good texture to it, so I assume that should be good enough to use. I mean, I guess we'll find out. So one thing that I'm noticing, and I don't know if it's user error or it's just not working. So the sand is coming out, but is then when it has to go straight up into the gun, it's like it doesn't have enough siphoning power to actually get it up there, which I don't really understand. I would think the pressure coming from the pressure washer would be enough to suck it up, but it seemed to work for a minute, but it's just getting stuck when it has to go straight up. So I might mess with this and try to figure this out. I don't know if it's just user error or what, but as of now it's not really working. Okay, so I messed with it for a little bit and I think I figured it out. So the problem that it was having was the hose was too long, and it was backfilling with water into the hose and clogging up the sand because it was getting it all wet. So I shortened the hose and I put me a hole in the bucket and put a little grommet there so that I could kind of keep the bucket a little closer without getting water in it. But I messed with it a little bit and I've been using it, and I'll show you what it's done. I'm honestly somewhat impressed with it, I guess. So this is what I've got done so far. I mean, as you can see, that's what it was. I mean, it does a good job. It does use quite a bit of sand. There's a few spots that it wasn't getting the best, and that could just be the grit of sand I was using, so I won't blame it on that. But overall, I mean, it's worked. It does use a lot of sand, but it's doing a really good job, so I'm gonna keep going with it and see if we can do it all with the sand we got, or if it won't do it. All right, so I used up all the sand I had. That was a 50-pound tub of sand, and at Harbor Freight I looked it up, it's $70. And I'd used a little bit before for smaller things, but I mean, for the most part, I'd say it was probably 90 to 95% full. So I'll show you everything it did, see if it's really worth it. So you can see I got from pretty much the cab mount, I got all down the rail on the front, and then on the inside, which I was starting to run out of sand, so I was going a little quicker, maybe not spending as much time, but I got the majority of this cleaned up. And so really mostly that whole front rail I got done, but they used 50 pounds of sand. So, and then I still have, you know, just doing the front alone, I'd have this whole other rail and then everything in between and still underneath. So just the front alone, you could easily probably use 3 buckets of sand. So right there alone, you're already talking almost $200 in sand. So, you know, to do a whole frame, you'd be talking easy $500-600. I don't know if that's worth it for something big like that, but I mean, for smaller things, I don't think it's bad. All right, so I'm gonna stop here real quick. So it's been a few days and I wanted to try something different because I was happy with it, but it wasn't the greatest thing ever. So I went to my local Tractor Supply and they had a different type of sand and it was a whole lot cheaper. And honestly, it works a whole lot better. I'll show you the sand that I use and I'll show you what it did. This makes it 100 times more worth it. Okay, so this is the sand I got. It's a black diamond. It's a 60 grit sand instead of an 80 grit. So this is a 50-pound bag, which means the same as that 50-pound bucket that I had, but instead of $69, this was $13, which obviously it doesn't last very long either, but you can use 4 times as much before you get up to the same cost as a bucket. So I got 2 bags, and that one's empty, and that one's probably about halfway empty. But if you come over here, you can see it did really good. I'm really happy with it. I was able to do the whole other side, get a lot of this cleaned up, which some of these areas I'll have to get kind of by hand with a grinder or something like that, but I mean, I'm pretty happy with what it did. It got it really good. So I got videoing of me doing it, so I'll show, and you can see how quickly it honestly takes it off. It worked way better, which I mean, obviously it's a 60 grit versus an 80 grit, but just that little difference, it made it so much better. All right, so I'm gonna end it there. I'm pretty happy with how it all worked. It seemed to do pretty good. I mean, $12 a bag or $13 a bag is way better than $70. So I would say if you can get a bag for 12, 13 bucks, I mean, it's well worth it. I mean, it does great. The 60 grit was definitely way better. But I mean, it kind of sucks having the water because you do have to get it cleaned off pretty quick or it will start to form a little bit of surface rust. But I mean, instead of having a whole sandblasting setup, I mean, you could just use a pressure washer, which a lot more people have, and it's a lot more inexpensive to get even if you had to buy one. But so really overall, I think it's pretty good. I mean, for 30 bucks, you can't really beat it. It's well worth the $30 if you're needing to do stuff. So I would recommend it for sure. But I guess that'll be it. I'm gonna finish this up, get it painted and cleaned up, and then hopefully I can start putting everything back on it and get the motor ready to set in. But I'll have another video at some point, so we'll see you later.